It's freezing in here! Even colder than it is outside!
Look at all those paintings.
Did we just stumble into an art gallery?
They all have a sort of forlorn look to them. My, what a large portrait! Is that Lord de...
His wife was sure an attractive one. Oh, and it says something under the painting. Lester, eldest son of the House of De Rosso, future clergyman of the Crystal Adventists and cardinal, born in the land of Eternia. So, that's his mother, not his beautiful young wife. And that little baby is Lord De Rosso.
Clergyman? Of the Crystal Adventists?
Is something the matter, Agnes?
The Crystal Adventists were the predecessors of the Crystal Orthodoxy. It is now known as the Old Faith. But it hasn't been practiced in over 2,400 years. According to this portrait, Lord De Rosso...
Yes, indeed.
And this portrait?
I was but an infant, as you can see. This is a reproduction, however.
And what of the part that reads, Clergyman of the Crystal Adventists?
Yes. As Windvestal, you would be expected to take interest in such matters. But here I delve into the matter of the Old Faith and the Orthodoxy. Allow me to tell of the founding of this land. As you may well know, this land had long been ruled by the Crystal Orthodoxy. However, 15 years passed, the Templar, or so I expect you have been. However, the Templar did not found...
He did?
Long before the Crystal Orthodoxy ruled this land, in a time 2,400 years past, Eternia was a bountiful... The highlands were not as lofty as they are today. People and ideas The kings of Eternia were protectors of the Earth Crystal, and to the west lay the castle of the House of De Rosso. Her relations with the royal family were good, and ever did the kings of Eternia treat the dukes of our house with kind. In return, the House of De Rosso did faithfully serve.
A family portrait by Lord De Rosso. Little did he know of the approaching maelstrom.
What magnificent...
'Tis a portrait of my ordained. I was born of the House of De Rosso. Blessed was my youth. My parents showered affection upon me, and I was beloved. Upon royal recommendation, I was made a cleric. I devoted my body and soul to my clerical duties, for king, for kingdom. But before long, A new tide began sweeping through the Crystal Adventists. There were those who wanted the clergy to control. That belief formed the core of the Crystal Orthodox. The Eternian. I soon found Cardinal. The old faith was remade entirely. Thereupon, cardinals throughout the world gathered for a conclave to elect the first Grand Patriarch. Amid the conclave's maelstrom, I suppose it was my youth and sincerity but that was my downfall. For I had been but fervent in my beliefs and ideals. What I did.
The old faith and the
I agree. There are no major differences in teachings between the old. I have heard that the Adventists.
No wonder the old faith was abandoned.
Yet there is more to the story. For history, to solidify their power, the victors showered. So it was those who held the reins of. No one recalls the words of the vanquished, if the victorious.
I'd been taught that the battle between the two.
That is an uncharacteristically. It was after the Orthodoxy had begun ruling the world. I should know. For I was there to bear witness.
Lord De Rosso, how could you possibly be that old?
Lord De Rosso.
From the old faith.
This one shows a castle.
A large army. Is this not this very...
There's another.
So then...
Nay, 'tis the abode of my.
But why?
The kingdom of. We would later come to know. They had been told that the Grand Patriarchy. Alas, I failed to. But he succeeded in luring votes from other. It was they who wished to establish Crystal Orthodoxy as the. Under their orders, the castle of the Eternian. Before long, the water supply was. By then, the castle. I was forced to sue the commoners who had. It was then that a letter arrived. The fiend was now the. Such was the hate my mother had been. Our castle was consumed.
How could the This all reminds...
Indeed, to be betrayed by. Though we do not see.
Lord De... Such a tragic... Such fierce flames.
Ah, though I wish not to remember that day, it is indelibly etched.
How did you survive?
The Orthodoxy lay siege yet would accept no surrender. But as the flames began to lick my body, betrayed by the precepts I believed in, amid such despair, was I content to simply welcome? Nay, accept me, and did I forge a dark pact with some fiendish and panicked upon failing to find my body. Thus have I been living an immortal existence ever since.
Then the name Vampire Castle is...
A lie that has been perpetrated by the Orthodoxy for some Though it is true I am immortal, I am no vampire. Having said that, I have done naught to quell the rumors. My ability to transform myself into a bat. And tell me, O Vestal of the Wind, what does the Crystal Orthodoxy have to say?
He chose the second Grand Patriarch and prayed...
Passed peacefully from this world?
What do you mean?
The first Grand Patriarch was the assassin himself tells you this. There is no other truth. That was when I forsook this land. Soon after, sightings of the vampire Lester de Rosso began to crop up throughout the world. I became a veritable... I was the enemy of man. And after some 500... No.
The portrait depicting Lord de Rosso's immortality.
He was granted everlasting. A battlefield landscape?
It represents the long and hard... For 500 years, my thirst for vengeance remained unsated. It had also been 500 years since the Orthodoxy had been founded. Compared to the great exchange of the authority of the Grand Patriarch and the fearing irrelevancy, this led to the unusual decision to select a commoner.
Juliana? Sage Juliana?
Yes, indeed. At age 20, the young
It's hard to believe.
It was no laughing matter, for there was no one more. The shadowy ones, those who had been working against the Orthodoxy, were crushed by the host he led. In the several decades that saw him age, I cannot count the number of times we have crossed swords. In the great battle waged on the Karka Plain, the might of our clashing forces rent the very earth into a vast rift.
You mean the rift under Ice and Bridge?
In the battle at the foot of Mount Fragmentum, our armies smote.
So that's how that ravine was created.
And in the battle fought on the Harina Plain, the loss of that fertile plain is believed to have ushered in the downfall of the Harina dynasty.
To think any sort of battle could change the face of the earth so.
We fought our final battle 1800 years ago on the Norende Heights in the land of Kaldisla.
The Norende Heights?
In the end,
You were defeated?
Yes, well, you see, I see Juliana return, and when the ever dreading the dark.
Lord de Rosso...
It's hard to imagine a world
That is Say Juliana.
Yes, indeed. No one would mistake such a man for young now. Having put down the blood-sucking Lord de Rosso, bane of the... Perhaps it was a small honor they threw his way.
That makes it sound despicable.
Agreed. The truth is, however,
The sage's plot? What was he plotting?
he was taking measures to separate you. After serving some 80 years, he had witnessed firsthand how corrupt the... Should nothing be done, it would not be long. So it was, he vowed.
But
For the great feat of defeat, timing was the key.
And just what timing?
The great upthrust of the Eternian Highlands. At the time, the Highlands were not so formidable as, but a colossal movement.
Hold on a moment.
I shall tell you and at last, the Orthodoxy ruled and while the control of the crystals, this, what you believe to be the true form of...
That was the sage's doing? Sage.
A portrait.
He looks just as he does.
A portrait.
He looks just...
what is that glowing jewel like?
I believe you have seen a similar sight countless times.
An asterisk?
Yes, indeed.
Grant vote.
Before Juliana intervened, in this way the institution grew rich through fat profits they called all.
Oh, so the orthodoxy cornered the job market and the feast.
In layman's terms, yes. But Juliana, it was then that Juliana approached panicked high officials and he showed them a stone known. Those who sought such vocations would apply to the orthodoxy and pay a fair price. Anyone with the means to pay could thus learn a new job.
That's no different from the old system where people had to pay alms.
No different indeed. But the Grand Patriarch and his official, hence they accepted Juliana's proposal without question, even appointing him to the important position.
I fail to see how that really changed anything.
Well, it did far more than you would guess.
Why, that wily old fox?
So it was Juliana robbed the orthodoxy of its authority to grant jobs and took it for himself.
What of the orthodoxy's profits?
Juliana was law. He took them. He then hid. But I had always believed. With the institution free, where my family's castle once stood. Meanwhile, Juliana retired to that land.
Say Juliana.
I commend you for making it this far.
Oh, no more.
The final painting lies beyond this throne. I shall reveal it to you.
What?
The last test is a test of strength, one might also say. But be forewarned, I am a formidable foe. I trust. Yes, perhaps it is for the best. But be forewarned. Yes, perhaps it is for the... But be forewarned. I commend you for making it this
Oh,
the
What?
the one, but before